Day 3 in Yellowknife. They say 9 out of 10 guys who are bush pilots are heavy drinkers up here in the north. Today was the big day for the poker rally. We were told we had to take off at 11:30 sharp. The first lodge that we would stop at to pick up cards was the Wada Lake Lodge. Along the way, we saw the incredible scenery of all the lakes in the Northwest Territories. It was an incredible experience being up here. The poker rally had offered breakfast, but we didn't realize it closed at 9 a.m. So instead we went to the Igloo Cafe where we had breakfast before we started our poker rally. It seemed Myron knew almost everyone in town. Every corner we went to, he met an old friend. Landing at Wada Lake Lodge, we had to wait a little bit because there was 2 planes already parked at the dock. We brought Dave Floyd with us, who was an old friend of Myron's.
So how's Robin?
I'm just fine.
Long time no see. 4 years. 4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just fun. Just to let the weight drop, right? So how are things?
Things are good. Very
Can
good.
I have a bit of
Haven't
juice?
changed much. We have some juice
You
and
just have
have a tart.
That's iced tea, is it?
Yeah.
That's good.
Yep. Dave will have
Tea just a short one. Oh my goodness, you're well organized here.
At this age, I have a swallow.
All of it.
Yeah. Me too.
They offered us iced tea and battered tarts.
Where's the other two? Oh, he's taking pictures. You want some iced tea?
The gist of a pilot poker run is flying to different lodges and picking up a card at each lodge. Whoever comes back with the best hand wins the poker run. We were only at Wada Lake Lodge for about 5 to 10 minutes. Then we continued on our way to the next lodge. This was also a timed event, so we wanted to keep on time. Next was Blackford Lake Lodge. We landed there, parked our aircraft at the dock, and then went to check it out. It had a really nice lodge. In fact, this was incredible. I would take a little tour of the lodge as well.
Sure, the herd has kicked them out, so they're...
Yeah, that kind of mean. Yeah. You didn't have to be outcast. Here's a brochure for you.
The only way to get to these lodges were by float plane, so it was quite exclusive and remote, but quite the experience. Wow, look at the view. It was so pristine and quiet. It was incredible. There is our float plane that we flew in. Back in these days, I used a Canon with mini DV cassettes. Even outside, there were many amenities like this. Hot tub. And wonderful scenery like this. They also had access to canoes. Canoes were a simple way to go fishing. And back to the plane to get to the next lodge. And off we were to our next lodge. Dave Floyd sat up front, while Jeff and I sat in the back. I sure enjoyed the scenery from above. The third lodge we stopped at was Garden Lake Lodge, or was it Gordon Lake Lodge? I liked how Myron would make 60 to 70 degree bank turns when turning onto final. After a quick introduction, picking up our cards, and about 5 to 10 minutes at the lodge, we were on our way to the next lodge. The final lodge we would stop at was at Duncan Lake, where they served cherries, strawberries, chips, cheese, crackers, cucumbers, carrots, and baked salmon and trout. It was a feast after a long poker rally.
What's your name? Mark. Myron Olson. Mark. Oh, did you? Oh, you were in that, right?
Yeah, actually I remind you of my boss. Is that Dolly's party? Yeah, it is. She was in here.
You're kidding.
I took a little tour of this lodge as well before we had lunch.
Yeah.
That concluded our poker rally, and we headed back to Yellowknife. Before landing though, we gave Dave Floyd a tour of the city. He really enjoyed it. Good old Yellowknife. It was the land of opportunity and one of the most populated cities in the Northwest Territories.
Yellowknife Tower. This is Golf Whiskey Mike Golf. We're supposed to park over in to the left, I believe. Golf Whiskey Mike Golf. Thank you very much. You're welcome, Uncle Yellowknife. 954 with you.
Although the pilot poker run was finished, we still had many activities left to do in Yellowknife, including a play that we would attend later on. Check out this air show that we saw once we were on the ground. Look at this float plane flying around. Come on. That's not possible to do loop-de-loops like this. That's because it was a remote control aircraft, not a real one. In the late afternoon, Jeff and I went to visit this famous place called The Rock, where it had a plaque about the history of the location. It was this elevated rock that overlooked the city and gave a good view of the surrounding area. Yellowknifers are very innovative when it comes to building houses that suit the rocky landscape. Flat real estate was not readily available in the Yellowknife Old Town. Shacks, outhouses, tents, cafes, and hotels were all jammed together in the early days, in every available nook and cranny surrounding the area, known as the Rock.
Okay, bush pilots of Canada. In the 1920s and 1930s, a small number of daring aviators broke the silence on the north, often flying in extreme cold and facing dangerous takeoffs and landing conditions. These bush pilots ferried passengers, mail, and freight in and out of the remote frontier regions and played a crucial role in the development of the northern economy and delivery of public services.
Here comes a caravan on floats landing in the bay. Finally, the play was about to start.
By this time, I knew for sure I had a stalker close behind. Ahead there was a large boulder, big enough to hide me. I ducked behind it, took a deep breath, waited, and popped my head out, bracing for the worst. It was a wolf! Trembling, I watched him duck below a mossy crest. A wolf. Here I stood, and thought myself a walking Arctic snack, and all I had out there was company. I carried on across the treeless hills, light-hearted, heart open, and well behind me, my trailmate followed, satisfied that I was harmless, although he never came closer than 100 yards or so. When I arrived at the drilling camp, he stopped, watched me for a bit, and then he disappeared. But later, when I was on my way back, he reappeared, this time to walk me home. I made that trek half a dozen times, and every time he joined me on my trek. He was a beauty, huge and finely marked with white around his eyes and ruff and chest. He trusted me, I think, but not too much. I tried to coax him closer with the scraps the camp cook gave me.
This next scene was a charade and story of flying in the Arctic North.
At first we see our shadow on the swirling cloud, but then the snow becomes a shroud impenetrable by the sun. 2,000, 1,500, 1, and down we sink in growing dread, opaque nothingness ahead. Are they reading sit down there as swiftly we run out of air? Somewhere in that seething murk, rock, an open water lark. 700, 6, now 4. Can our nerves take any more? 3, 250, 2. All eyes lock on the fast unwinding clock. Nothing. Does the clag extend clear down to the ice? The end? 70, 60. Sudden cheer! Ice below! We've broken clear!
Touching down, looks as though we'll spend the night.
When we're entry for the log.
Forced to land in snow and fog.
The next scene was a musical.
We flew from Camp to Belly Bay, to Balance Stripes and Bad, to Bathurst Hill and home in Green Pin Maine.
Back again. For 30 days we barely saw the ground once in the air.
And cabin heat or radio seemed our two choices there. We'd fly at daybreak, 6:30, and stagger in at night. So worked we'd often fall asleep before we'd had a fight. We held our clinic bikes where we could. In schools and trading posts, landing churches,
storage sheds. There were hosts.
On 2 large sites we slept in beds.
most times we used the floor. We might set up 3 times a day.
Take people by the score.
Our record was 250 in a single day at camp.
It took us till 11 p.m. to clear that traffic jam. Our overload was bad enough if April had been fine. It wasn't whiteouts, blizzards, fogs were all down the line. At night begins in temps which hit a low of 44.
Rusty extracts, weather restricts, and every day some more.
And every day some more. Frostbite and gone from lack of sleep, the legacy of fear. At last we were in copper mine, and almost in the clear. My God, the things we did before the days of strips and fuel, and beacons everywhere, when single autopilots flew on steel, and guides and prayer. We had just one more camp to see, down at Contorta Lake, and Mac, the Mountie Corporal, urged Bill to take a break.
I've got a case of rum,
He said,
and you guys aren't a bash. So why don't you come in tonight and join me for a smash?
Bill was as beat as anyone, and saw no reason why we shouldn't.
All right.
13 nightmare days, is anybody dry? I don't recall McDougal's hash in any great detail, except that I awoke next day feeling exceeding frail.
I know we were a quiet crew at breakfast with some mates.
Bill had turned us out of bed at 5. His flights did not leave late.
And that concluded the day.
Where do you want to go with your
Oh, where we, right where we embarked in your truck there? No problem.
Oh, I've been in there lots
Oh, yeah?
of times. It used to be the old place right here. It was the old England motel.
You know, it's funny, walking home last night at 12:30, there's still like
Oh, yeah.
8-year-old kids biking around. And
So it's midnight right now. Tons of mosquitoes around here. I'm getting bitten by it right now.
It was hard to believe this was midnight, but it was sure light. The only difference was it was super quiet.
This is where we sleep.
And that concluded our day. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for part 4.